there's a lot that's there is a lot that has been circling around Sam Altman. And I am sure this man has horrifying skeletons in his closet. And we can talk about the lawsuit that his sister has filed against him. Here's Ronan Farrow's thread on the piece. In the fall of 2023, OpenAI's chief scientist Ilya Sutskever, acting at the behest of fellow board members and with other concerned colleagues, compiled some 70 pages of memos about Altman and his second in command, Greg Brockman. Slack messages, HR documents, some photographed on a cell phone to avoid detection on company devices. One memo begins with a list. Sam exhibits a consistent pattern of, the first item is, lying. Separately, Dario Amodi, who left to co-found Anthropic, kept years of private notes on Altman and Brockman. Nina, thank you for the prime. More than 200 pages of related documents never before publicly disclosed have circulated in Silicon Valley. In one document, Amodi writes that Altman's words were almost certainly bullshit. The colleagues who facilitated his ouster accuse him of a degree of deception that's untenable for any executive and dangerous for a leader of such a transformative technology. Mira Murati, who had given Sutskever material for his memo, said, "We need institutions worthy of the power they wield. The board sought feedback, and I shared what I was seeing. Everything I shared was accurate, and I stand behind all of it. Opinions vary on the extent to which we should consider these traits benign or malign." Altman attributes the criticism to a tendency, especially early in his career, to be too much of a conflict avoider. That's like when you go to a job interview and they say, "What's your weakness?" And you're like, "I just work so much. I am a workaholic." What does this trait look like in practice? In late 2022, Altman assured the board that features in a forthcoming model had been approved by a safety panel. Board member Helen Toner requested documentation. She found out the most controversial features had not, in fact, been approved. In 2023, as the company was prepared to release GPT-4 Turbo, Altman apparently told Murati that the model didn't need safety approval, citing the company's general counsel, Jason Kwan. But Kwan said he was confused about where Altman had gotten that idea. OpenAI increasingly has meaningful power to shape global security. The piece describes in detail how its executives considered enriching the company by playing world powers, including China and Russia, against one another, perhaps starting a bidding war for advanced AI technology. The plan was dropped after several employees talked about quitting. An OpenAI representative said it was just one of many ideas batted around at a high level. A legal review that was an integral part of Altman's return. The review by the law firm Wilmer Hale was overseen by two board members selected in close conversation with Altman. People close to the investigation told us that no written report was ever produced, though many executives expected one given the high-profile nature of the scandal. Only an 800-word announcement from OpenAI was released, acknowledging a breakdown in trust. Some of the lawyers involved defended their work as an independent, careful, comprehensive review, and one of the new board members said there was no need for a formal written report. Many others disagreed. OpenAI was established as a nonprofit whose board had a duty to prioritize the safety of humanity over the company's success, or even its survival. The company accepted charitable donations, and some former employees told us they joined because of assurances about the nonprofit and its noble mission, even taking pay cuts to do so. But internal records show that the founders had private doubts about the nonprofit structure as early as 2017. Brockman, Altman's co-founder, wrote in a diary entry, "Cannot say that we are committed to the nonprofit. If 3 months later we're doing B Corp, then it was a lie." OpenAI has since recapitalized as a for-profit entity. Some former OpenAI researchers argue that the company has forfeited its original safety mission and accelerated an industry-wide race to the bottom. The piece details a set of public and internal safety commitments that former researchers say were abandoned. Several safety-related teams at the company have been dissolved. The Future of Life Institute recently gave OpenAI an F on existential safety, alongside every other company except for Anthropic, which got a D, and Google DeepMind, which got a D-. Altman told us that he still prioritizes safety and that we will still run safety projects, or at least safety-adjacent projects. Oh, you mean the man who's a liar? A sociopathic liar said he still prioritizes safety? In the cutthroat race for AI dominance, these more substantive critiques of Altman commingle with no-holds-barred opposition efforts in which rivals have weaponized his personal life. Intermediaries directly connected to, and at least one case compensated by Elon Musk, have circulated dozens of pages of salacious and unsubstantiated opposition research reflecting extensive surveillance, shell companies, personal contacts, interviews about purported sex worker conducted at gay bars. In the course of our reporting, multiple people within rival companies reached out to insinuate to us that Altman sexually pursues minors, a narrative persistent in Silicon Valley which appears to be untrue. We spent months looking into the matter and could find no evidence to support it. Why does all this matter? AI already does have life-saving applications from medical research to weather warnings. Altman has supported OpenAI's growth with promises of a superabundant future. But the dangers are also no longer fantasy. AI is already being deployed. Let me just say, too, that I believe there are multiple things happening where Sam Altman is horrible. He is a capitalist pig. He is a billionaire who does not give a shit about human beings. And he is an egomaniac narcissist who wants to be the one who is leading on the frontier of AI, no matter the human cost. And I think he has, in his own personal life, definitely harmed people. And I think too, though, that the that the rivals here, including Elon Musk, would be incentivized to also try and take him down because of the competitive business practices. That I think, as far as this, purporting that he pursues minors, maybe it's not true because it's coming from other Silicon Valley AI billionaire rivals who want to unseat Sam Altman, but not because it's like, oh, Sam Altman is actually a morally upstanding person. Anyway, the dangers are no longer fantasy. AI is already being deployed in military operations around the world. Researchers have documented its power to rapidly identify chemical warfare agents. OpenAI faces 7 wrongful death lawsuits alleging ChatGPT prompted suicides and a murder. AI could soon cause severe labor disruption, perhaps eliminating millions of jobs. The U.S. economy is increasingly dependent on a few highly leveraged AI companies, and some experts warn of a bubble and recession risks. OpenAI has one of the fastest cash burns of any startup in history, relying on partners that have borrowed vast sums. A board member told us the company leveraged up financially in a way that's risky and scary right now. If the bubble pops, much more than one company is at stake. There's much more in this piece on the saga of Altman's firing and return, a history of alleged similar complaints earlier in his career, gifts from foreign leaders, and a security clearance vetting process that turned up what one official described as a lot of red flags and more. And it looks at wider critiques from industry insiders of the current moment's anti-regulation trajectory, something that stands to affect all of us. He's also a eugenicist, of course. I mean, that's kind of standard for these Silicon Valley freaks. OpenAI boss has invested in the controversial startup Preventive, which aims to genetically engineer children free from hereditary diseases. Here's him and his hubby. Yeah, I mean, this is standard for, as I said, these Silicon Valley types. Okay, let's talk about the lawsuit.
Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, is now at the center of a high-profile legal battle after his sister, Elsie, cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. A lawsuit filed in Missouri federal court has set off a firestorm of controversy, accusing Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, of sexually abusing his sister, Annie Altman, for almost a decade. Yeah, I know, this is next level. So this suit, which was filed in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri, that is where these alleged events occurred, this suit details...
I just can't believe that. This really hasn't gotten more
disturbing allegations
attention.
Of sexual assault.
So this lawsuit was filed last year, but the reason that it has popped up again is because an amended lawsuit was filed. The case was previously dismissed because a judge said it was filed too late under normal legal time limits. But a different judge has allowed her to refile under Missouri's child sexual abuse law, and that allows older cases to be reconsidered.
Battery. that allegedly occurred between 1997 and 2006. This allegedly started when Anne says she was just 3 years old and Sam was 12. Now, the legal battle has already drawn sharp reactions from
So in the Altman family, there are 3 brothers. Sam, I think, is the oldest. There's 2 other brothers. Then there's Annie, who's the only girl, only sister, and their parents, but their dad died. So it's just the mom and the brothers. And they have all banded together and said that Annie is mentally ill and have basically been like, she's sick, and that's why she's saying these things. Meanwhile, Annie had been forced to go into sex work to support herself. She apparently had been named as the main recipient in her father's 401k in his will after he passed, but that was withheld from her for a year. And anyway, there seems to be a structure in this family that prioritizes Sam Altman. And it probably has to do with the fact that Sam is a billionaire, that he is by far and away the most powerful, the most successful in this family. It could potentially have to do with a mother who prioritizes her sons over her daughter.
Both sides of the Altman family.
Hassan
It is
Freckles,
raising
thank you,
questions
Prime.
about one of Silicon Valley's biggest tech moguls. Now, before we get into this, if you're not familiar with who Sam Altman is, let me kind of lay this out for you. He is considered a tech visionary.
It's a fucking
He is
mess.
known for his belief that AI, artificial intelligence, will be able to do anything that humans can
could be
do
worse,
and
yes,
more.
but
At 39 years old,
it's
Altman
pretty
is
dark.
the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, the company behind some of the biggest breakthroughs in AI. OpenAI launched back in 2015 with Altman serving as co-chair alongside none other than Elon Musk. Now backed by Microsoft,
Dude, it just fucking sucks too when you have these like really exciting other races happening with exciting socialist candidates, progressives who are really making waves, and then you look at the California governor's race, it's like, oh my god,
is valued at a massive $157 billion, making Altman one of the most influential figures in the tech world today. And in contrast, we talk about his sister, the plaintiff in this case, Annie Altman. She has led a more private life, although I will tell you, her allegations against her brother have occasionally surfaced on social media, especially on platforms like X, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But this lawsuit marks the first formal legal action she has taken against him. She is making serious allegations, including rape, molestation, sexual assault, sodomy, battery. So I want to break it down, start from the beginning, because there is a lot to unpack here. So Anne claims that this abuse began all the way back in 1997 when she was just 3 years old. According to her.
And here's what I will say. So this lawsuit is ongoing because previously it had been tossed due to statute of limitations, but then a judge said that she can file under Missouri's child abuse laws because they have a longer time frame on that. But here's what we know, okay? We know that there is a ton of reporting out there, including the piece in the New Yorker that just dropped, with many people who've been interviewed who attest to Sam Altman being a sociopathic liar. And then on Annie's side, her mother and her brothers, which include Sam Altman, have all banded together against her. And it's been this break in the family division with Annie on the outside. She was forced to a billionaire brother and she had to go into sex work because she had all these health issues and was struggling to support herself and was faced with the option of doing sex work. Has a brother who's a billionaire. And so there's all this stuff clearly in the family here. But I don't know. It's like you look at this and without knowing, without knowing the full details here, obviously, it's like, well, Sam Altman has been established by pretty much every person who has worked with him to be a sociopathic liar. So, as far as him saying that his sister is unwell, that she's mentally ill, and that these claims are totally false, and that she's just trying to get his money out of him.
Official complaint, which was obtained by Law and Crime. Anne says that beginning around that time,
We also know that Sam Altman has no regard for human lives. This guy's anti-humanity.
Sam Altman would force her to perform sexual acts on him, including, and I'm sorry, I'm very sorry for the graphic nature of this, forcing her to touch his genitals. And even more shocking, she says, is that this was occurring frequently. According to her filing, from approximately 1997 to 1999, when plaintiff Annie Altman was between the ages of 3 to 5 years old, the foregoing conduct occurred several times per week. She also says in her filing that Altman did not just force her to do things to him, but that he also forced himself onto her and sexually assaulted her in various ways. We're not going to get into how graphic this is, but of course the complaint is publicly available, so you can read it for yourself. But what's even worse, according to Anne, is that Altman even tried to manipulate her. According to her filing, Sam Altman groomed and manipulated plaintiff Annie Altman into believing the aforementioned sexual acts were her idea, despite the fact she was under the age of 5 years old when the sexual abuse began and defendant was nearly a teenager. Now that was important, I imagine, to maybe suggest why she hadn't.
I was reading her tweets. She was posting how ChatGPT denies her existence. Yes, I don't know if that's been changed now that it's been made public, but there was a period of time that if you asked ChatGPT about Sam Altman's family and specifically about his sister, ChatGPT would say Sam Altman doesn't have a sister.
Spoken out before.
Would deny her existence.
When she was younger, perhaps to her family. We'll explore that in a minute. But beginning approximately in 1999 or 2000, this would be when Anne was 5 or 6 years old and Altman would have been 14 or 15 years old. This is when Anne claims that Sam Altman began forcing her to engage in sexual intercourse with him. And this allegedly went on for several years. According to her filing, the foregoing level of childhood sexual abuse continued for a period of approximately 8 or 9 years until plaintiff was 11 or 12 years old, wherein defendant Sam Altman regularly continued to commit numerous acts of rape, sex.
I just have to make this point as well, because I've seen people go, well, the reason that I don't believe this is because Sam Altman is gay. Okay, well, first of all, this is when he was younger, and who knows exactly when he realized he was gay. But more importantly, is this speaks to abuse being about control. This speaks to rape and the molestation of children being about power and control. And you'll hear this argument from cisgender straight men who will say, well, I'm not into children. I'm not sexually attracted to children. It's like, well, that's what people get confused here, is thinking, oh, you're not capable of abusing children because you're not sexually attracted to them, when the element at play here is power and control, which you do get off on, which you are into. You are into the act itself being about extending power over someone who's entirely powerless. So this has kind of been disturbing to me to see people go, well, I would be more inclined to believe this, but Sam Altman is gay. And we got a lot of learning
Sexual
still
assault,
to do.
Sexual abuse, molestation,
Rape culture will
sodomy,
always ignore power and
battery.
control. I know, rape culture rests on power and control and the abuse of it, and people still don't understand that.
Upon plaintiff Annie Altman. And this would continue, according to Anne, even when Altman became an adult and Anne was still a minor. Now, according to this filing, there is a childhood sexual abuse statute in effect in the state of Missouri that governs abuse when the victim is under the age of 18. And that statute reads,
who I saw say that is the founder of Passes. What was her name? She's founder. Founder of Lucy Guo. Anyway, she had gotten into a Twitter exchange with Sam Altman, I think. And then ultimately she was like, yeah, look, I believe you because you're gay. So I know you couldn't have done this. I'm like, girl. Oh, girl.
Any action to recover damages from injury or illnesses caused by childhood sexual abuse in an action brought pursuant to this section shall be commenced within 10 years of the plaintiff attaining the age of 21 or within 3 years of the date the plaintiff discovers or reasonably should have discovered that the injury or illness was caused by childhood sexual abuse, whichever later occurs. So this is about bringing a lawsuit, a civil action. And as you can see, it provides this kind of window because we know these cases can be very complex in terms of when someone can actually understand the damage of what happened to them. Maybe when they reach an age, they can actually appreciate what happened to them, come forward with what happened to them. We know that there's a lot of complications in these kinds of cases or alleged cases. But let me just break that down a little bit further, because basically what Missouri law is providing is a window for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to file lawsuits up to 10 years after their 21st birthday. And this appears to be why Anne is bringing the lawsuit forward now, as the lawsuit claims she was 30 at the time of this filing. She apparently just turned 31. So I want to get into what she is suing Sam Altman for. So the first count in the lawsuit is for sexual assault, which Anne says left a lasting and horrific impact on her both physically and emotionally. According to her filing, as a direct and proximate result of the foregoing acts of sexual assault upon plaintiff Annie Altman by defendant Sam Altman. By the way, when we talk about direct and proximate result, it's basically a causation thing. We're saying, but for this happening, these results wouldn't have happened. Plaintiff has suffered great bodily injury, including but not limited to physical injuries associated with the harms committed. She has also experienced PTSD, severe emotional distress, mental anguish, and depression, which is expected to continue into the future. She has experienced embarrassment and humiliation. And by the way, talking about something I mentioned before, there could be what we see in this case if it actually goes to trial.
Also, the belief that sexual attraction to children is a prerequisite for abusing children is not just wrong, it's dangerous, it's harmful. It misleads people into concerning their understanding of how prevalent abuse is, and that they think that they can easily identify offenders based on, I don't know, this very narrow, kind of very narrow set of parameters on someone being a child molester. And people will be like, well, look, I watch adult pornography, or I have sex with adults, or, you know, I'm married, or whatever it is. They will be able to show, they will be able to point to their lives and show that they have not typically shown an attraction to children. I mean, that's how people excuse Donald Trump and these other abusers and pedophiles who are in the Epstein class. And it's because, too, this is a big part of it, is the misunderstanding, the lack of education around child abusers, and thinking that it's a prerequisite to abuse children, and that the prerequisite being that you are sexually attracted to children. It's always weird when people go that, well, that person didn't look like a pedo.
There
exactly.
Could be medical expert testimony to
Most
say
pedophiles aren't even exclusively attracted to children.
She was diagnosed with these different conditions, and there was analysis done that it all led back to this childhood trauma, this childhood assault or alleged assault. That's why it becomes important, and giving that window to actually sue for this. And on top of that, she says she has incurred numerous medical bills as a result of medical and mental health treatments, that her future employment has suffered, along.
I'm confused. You're mentioning adults when this is a child abusing another child. Well, she claims that he was still abusing her when he was over the age of 18, and she would have been a minor still.
With a loss of enjoyment for life. And the second count that she's suing him for is sexual battery. according to her filing. As a direct and
But also, this has to do with people saying, "Oh, he couldn't have abused her because he's gay," and Annie's is his sister, and therefore there's no there's no world here that Sam Altman would have abused his sister because his sexual preferences are, well, as an adult, for men, and that does not preclude someone from being capable of committing abuse against someone who in the current time period, they are not attracted to that gender. There's also the element of her being his sister, which kind of throws everything into even further, throws everything into further orbit here, because we're talking about incest. We're talking about a brother molesting his sister, allegedly. And people are trying to debate. People are trying to say, like, there's no world that this can happen because Sam Altman is married to a man now. And they're not considering all the different ways that Sam Altman in this situation could have been getting off on the power that he had, on the control that he had over his sister.
Proximate result of the aforementioned acts, defendant Sam Altman committed an unlawful and outrageous touching upon the person of plaintiff Annie Altman without any lawful justification or consent, thereby committing a battery upon her. And as a result of this alleged abuse, Anne is suing Altman for at least $75,000 in damages and legal fees. I'm going to explain that a little bit more later, but these are obviously incredibly disturbing allegations. I mean, it's one thing to say that you were sexually assaulted. It's another thing to say you were sexually assaulted by a family member, a brother. And it does become a question of how Anne will try to prove this other than her testimony alone. I mentioned perhaps medical examiners will testify about this, about
also
conversations she had with them.
$75,000.
And given the time period, the circumstances of these allegations, are there texts, are there emails, are there videos?
And I saw Sam Altman trying to argue with someone. He's like, well, that's just she will obviously be pushing for the legal fees to be paid and blah, blah, blah. I was like, buddy, this doesn't really seem as if she's trying to extort you in the way that you and your family have claimed.
Are there screenshots corroborating witnesses? We shall see. But putting all that to the side, for those of you who might be saying, well, why is this only coming out now? I mean, with OpenAI valued at so much, is this just a way to get a payday? Well, keep that in mind for a minute because we'll talk about the family's response. But here's the thing. This is not the first time Annie Altman has alleged this. This lawsuit marks the latest chapter in a series of allegations that Annie Altman has made publicly over the last few years, especially on the platform X. So since 2021, Anne has shared similar claims, including a post from November of that year in which she named two of her brothers as part of her accusations. That post reads, I experienced sexual, physical, emotional, verbal, financial, and technological abuse from my biological siblings, mostly Sam Altman, and some from Jack Altman. Now, just to be clear, she has not filed any legal action against her brother Jack, and he's not named in her filing against Sam. But going forward, in a post from 2023, she wrote, I'm not 4 years old with a 13-year-old brother climbing onto my bed non-consensually anymore. You're welcome for helping you figure out your sexuality. I've finally accepted that you've always been and always will be more scared of me than I am of you. February 2020, she shared this post, seemingly alluding to her troubled past, where she wrote, I have PTSD. Of course, I have a ridiculous number of pictures and screenshots to help me avoid gaslighting. Now, there has been a response. In a statement issued Tuesday, Altman and his family, including his mother and two younger brothers, they flatly denied these allegations. In part of the statement, the family claims Anne suffers from mental health issues, saying,
Okay, here's the other thing with the mental health argument. I am so sick and tired of people not acknowledging the fact that rape is debilitating. It is a disabling assault, that the impact of rape, and now this is alleged, of course, this is alleged, but this is the truth about how rape works. The trauma that it does to your body, to your mind, the physical, psychological, mental, the extent of that trauma, the PTSD. I mean, it is no joke, and it's absurd for anyone to discredit someone's testimony by claiming that they have mental health issues, like that they have mental health problems, and looking at that as like, oh, the mental health problems came first, and therefore that is distorting the truth here, which, first of all, someone can have mental illness and be a victim of sexual crimes that actually makes them pretty vulnerable. People who have disabilities, people who have mental health issues, you think that doesn't make them maybe susceptible to abuse, vulnerable, but also the fact that why don't you ever consider it as somebody's mental health issues worsening or materializing because of something traumatic that happened to them?
Family loves Annie and is very concerned about her well-being, caring for a family member who faces
I don't know if I can sit through all this, but thank you so much for saying it how you are. I know it's a lot. So don't
mental
worry
health
if you have
challenges
to,
is very
you gotta
difficult.
take breaks.
We know many families facing similar struggles understand this well. And the statement goes on to say that the family has offered their support to Anne in numerous ways. Quote, over the years, we've tried in many ways to support Annie and to help her find stability, following professional advice on how to be supportive without enabling harmful behaviors. To give a sense of our efforts, we have given her monthly financial support, directly paid her bills, covered her rent, helped her find employment opportunities, attempted to get her medical help, and have offered to buy her a house through a trust so that she would have a secure place to live, but not be able to sell it immediately. By the way, that's really interesting because
also she's talked about that and said she realized they were just trying to have control over her. That after years of abuse and having this falling out with her family, and she relates it to the death of her father and them keeping from her that she was named as the primary beneficiary. And then the house offer, which they referenced there, was one she rejected because she said this is just a form of control again.
if that's true and they're financing her life, how can she afford a lawyer? And I don't think they're going to be footing the bill for this. So just a little side note there. And by the way, I think they're putting out this statement both for a legal point of view, but also from a PR point of view. As I said, what could be the potential damage of a lawsuit like this? Well, reversing the narrative immediately and trying to say, take a step back. This is somebody who's quite troubled. We shouldn't really take these allegations as true. That might be saying something to the general public, particularly since he's the head of OpenAI. Putting that to the side. The Altman family.
It's also like, man, we're talking about Sam fucking Altman. We're talking about Sam. This is not just like some random guy. This is not, and I say that with, yes, we don't know. We don't, there's a lot here that we do not know yet. This is a suit that has yet to, that has yet to move to a significant aspect. Sorry, what am I saying? This has yet to reach a place where like there's more details aside from what Annie has already initially shared. But this is Sam Altman, OpenAI billionaire, who we know does not give a shit about human beings, that he's a liar. He is concerned with one thing and one thing only, and that is him. That is his profit. That is his name being in the history books. That is his power and his influence, and being the guy in the forefront of this new technological frontier.
Also argues that this lawsuit is just another attempt by Anne to extract more money from them. And the statement continues, Annie had made deeply hurtful and entirely untrue claims about our family, and especially Sam. We've chosen not to respond publicly out of respect for her privacy and our own. However, she has now taken legal action against Sam, and we feel we have no choice but to address this. Now, we've mentioned that she's seeking at least $75,000 in damages. That's not an arbitrary number in the law. That is actually the minimum amount you need to be suing for in order to get into federal court. But more importantly, if we take a closer look at the language in the lawsuit, it becomes clear that this figure really is just the starting point, because it reads, plaintiff Annie Altman requests that judgment be entered on her behalf against defendant Sam Altman for actual damages in a sum in excess of $75,000. Now, in legal terms, this means that Anne is not simply asking for $75,000, but for damages that could exceed well beyond that amount. And again, the $75,000 is just a minimum. And Anne's attorney, Ryan Mahoney, has indicated that if this case goes to trial, the damages could be much higher, particularly if you're talking about punitive damages. Those are a way to punish a defendant for really bad actions. And you also have to wonder if it's going to be considered by a jury Sam Altman's substantial wealth as CEO of OpenAI. Now,
there was a woman in Australia who has multiple personality disorders as a consequence of her father's abuse of her as a child. She took her father to court to hold him accountable for why he did to her. In doing so, she made Australian legal history by testifying in court in her alter personalities. Yeah, I just think a lot of people are coming up with the stupidest fucking reasons as to why this should be completely dismissed. Like, oh, she has mental health problems. Okay, well, if she's to be believed in any or all of these allegations she's made, do you not think that that would contribute to, I don't know, worsening mental health? Do you not think that maybe that would make sense?
Back to the family's statement, their response also suggests that these sexual abuse allegations are far from the only accusations that Anne has leveled against them. The family claims she has also accused them of improperly withholding their deceased father's 401k funds, hacking her Wi-Fi, and even shadow banning her on various websites, including ChatGPT and Twitter, or X. Now, for context, shadow banning refers to subtly limiting a user's content visibility without their knowledge, typically by altering how their posts appear in an algorithm, making it hard for others to see or engage with them. But the family ends the statement refuting her claims in their entirety. All of these claims are utterly untrue. This situation causes immense pain to our entire family. It is especially gut-wrenching when she refuses conventional treatment and lashes out at family members who are genuinely trying to help. We ask for understanding and compassion from everyone as we continue to support Annie in the best way we can. We sincerely hope she finds the stability and peace she's been searching for. So it becomes unclear how aggressive legally they will be in their defense, either disputing the claims here, trying to get this case dismissed. It's unclear if they're going to be filing a countersuit or counterclaims like defamation, but based on that statement, seems unlikely. Seems like they're just going to try to get this case thrown out or have her voluntarily dismiss it. But Anne's lawyer, here's the thing, again, Ryan Mahoney, issued a response to the family statement, rejecting their explanation, saying, it is not uncommon for parents and other family members to deny sexual abuse perpetrated by a sibling. In this case, they are focusing on the wrong sibling. There is no evidence that her own mental health has contributed to her allegation.
I mean, we just talked about this with the Duggars. The way that the Duggar girls were blamed for the abuse that they experienced by their brother. So it seems that the allegation here is that the family is either covering all this up or they are in complete denial. But it doesn't appear that Anne or her attorney are backing away from this. This literally happens all the time. And again, I understand these are allegations. Okay, I'm still using the word alleged, allegations. But this happens all the time where there are abuses that happen in families behind closed doors. And unfortunately, often they will cover it up. They will keep it quiet. They will, protect the person who's done the abuse. Like this happened in my own family. This has happened like multiple points in my own extended family. My cousins had a cousin, and we all used to go to Michigan together. We were kids. I mean, we would only go a couple times, but then it came out that he had abused people on their side of the extended family. And I remember my mom trying to tell me this one night because she was trying to ask me if I had ever been abused by him, but she couldn't get the words out. And so I said, no, what's happening? And then this whole thing comes out. But anyway, this happens all the fucking time. And anyway, not my immediate family. So I don't even know necessarily all of what ended up happening there. But no, not the Kwan. It was not on the Kwan side, though. I'm sure this shit has happened. It's just the point being that it happens often. It happens a lot. Abuses in families. And it's the way that like what more likely is the situation is that the family protects the person who did the abusing rather than the one or ones who were abused. You know?
And by the way, from the complaint, it might seem bare bones, like just blanket allegations at this point, but
Virginia
you actually
Giuffre tried
don't
to keep a
need
relationship
show
with her father who
more
abused
at this
her.
point in the litigation.
Yeah.
The purpose of a lawsuit and discovery, where evidence is being turned over, is to develop those claims more fully. And by the way, in terms of a lawyer filing a claim like this, filing a lawsuit like this, there has to be a level of due diligence. He had to make sure that these claims are at least supported by factual assertions. It's against ethical and civil procedure rules for an attorney to file frivolous lawsuits. So her attorney is confident that there is something here, or at least seems to be, and by the rules would have had to do some level of due diligence to make sure this is not just a product of alleged mental health issues, but there really is something here. Now, the one lingering question with this lawsuit is, what effect is it going to have on OpenAI? It certainly has the potential to damage its reputation.
Honestly,
according to Forbes
probably
magazine,
nothing.
Sam Altman's net worth is around $1.1 billion. And we mentioned OpenAI was recently valued at $157 billion, though according to the magazine reporting, Altman doesn't hold any equity in the company. He's currently in the process of transitioning the company to a for-profit organization. Bloomberg reports he's in line to receive a 7% stake in the company once that happens. So again, one of the challenges that could be made is the timing of this lawsuit, given what's happening with the company. But I think, again, that is why that statement was put forward. That is why you might see a very quick and swift, aggressive legal strategy to try to get this case dismissed so it doesn't hurt him from a PR perspective or hurt his company from a PR perspective or a financial perspective. But the impact of this case, particularly if it goes forward on Sam Altman's career, that remains to be seen. But given the high stakes, both legally and personally, the outcome could carry significant repercussions for all involved. But we'll continue to keep an eye out for what happens in this case. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And
Yeah, so no matter what, fuck Sam Altman. That guy is a piece of shit. That guy is a piece of shit. I do not trust that motherfucker. He is a lizard person. He and all these other tech billionaires who are ruining this fucking planet, who have put themselves in charge because they are the future, as they have self-ascribed. Michael Burns' latest video about billionaires hating philosophy is very good. I'll have to watch it. Okay. Anyway, that is the update there on Sam Altman and this New Yorker piece that came out and this lawsuit that his sister has filed against him.